Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Horn Lake Board of Aldermen to order. As all of us say every time, good government depends on the people being involved, and we certainly thank you for coming out on this beautiful evening. At this time, would you please join in our invocation led by Alderman Bledsoe?
Bow your head, please. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this city, and thank you for the board and the mayor and everybody who works for the city, and thank you for our people that live here, that we may carry our business to benefit you and everything that we do. And Lord, the ones that are not saved, help them get saved. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Alderman. Would you please rise and join in the Pledge of Allegiance led by Alderman David Young?
Hey, Jim, you got extra ink pen? I lost mine.
All right. Roll call, please, Mr. Jim.
Alderman Young. Alderman Dupree.
Here.
Alderman Johnson.
Here.
Alderman Bostic.
Here.
Alderman Geis.
Here.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Here.
Alderman Klein.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. On your agenda, the first item is the vote on the municipal docket. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Geis.
I make a motion to approve the municipal docket, and while I'm making that motion, I'd like to make a motion as part of that to move items S and T and the consent agenda to executive session.
S and T.
Yes, sir.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a
Second.
second?
Second.
Who was that? Second by Alderman Bledsoe. Mr. Billy. S and T, wouldn't they follow day to day? Okay. All right, we have a motion. We have a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Nay.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Number 2 is the consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
Okay.
Alderman Bostic.
Yeah, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the S and T removed. So that'd be A through V with S and T removed to executive session as requested.
We have a motion by Alderman Bostic. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Dupree. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young.
Nay.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Alderman Young, I didn't get your vote.
No. Nay.
Motion carries 6 in favor, 1 opposed. All right. Moving on along, we're down to number 3. The claims docket. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Geis.
make a motion to approve the claims docket, general fund, $935,423.40. The economic development fund, $2,015.20. The utility fund, $3,129,665, for a total docket of $4,067,103.60.
We have a motion by Alderman Geis. Do we have a second?
I second.
Second by Alderman Johnson. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. All right, number 4, special gifts and proclamations. We have 2 proclamations this evening. As you've probably read or heard, Horn Lake Schools achieved remarkable goals this past year. A and B schools. We want to congratulate all the faculty, all the administration, all the students of each and every one of those schools. But tonight, the first proclamation is whereas the city of Horn Lake, Mississippi is committed to the education of our children, and whereas schools are graded on performance of its students in subjects such as math, English, history, and science, among others, and whereas there's been tremendous growth and hard work by our students and our teachers at Horn Lake Intermediate School, and whereas the efforts of all have produced amazing changes, and whereas Horn Lake Intermediate School has achieved a B accreditation rating, and whereas Horn Lake Intermediate School is continuing to promote learning and success among our young people. Now therefore, I, Alan Latimer, do hereby proclaim October the 6th, 2023 as Horn Lake Intermediate School Day. Is there anyone here from the intermediate school? All right. Well, we do have one here, and it's one of our aldermen who's the librarian. So if you will allow me. Thank you and the school. Thank y'all. We have another proclamation for Shadow Oaks Elementary School Day. Whereas the city of Horn Lake, Mississippi is committed to the education of our children, and whereas schools are graded on performance of its students in subjects such as math, English, history, and science, among others, and whereas there has been tremendous growth and hard work by our students and our teachers at Shadow Oaks Elementary, and whereas the efforts of all have heralded historic changes, and whereas Shadow Oaks Elementary has achieved an A accreditation rating, and whereas Shadow Oaks Elementary is the first school in Horn Lake's history to achieve this grade, now therefore I, Mayor Alan Latimer, do hereby proclaim October the 3rd, 2023 as Shadow Oaks Elementary School Day. Is there anyone here from Shadow Oaks? Oh, please come up. Thank you so much for everything you do for our children and the community. Would you like to say some words? If you want to, just step over to that podium so everybody can hear you.
Good afternoon. I'll be quick. I'm Michelle Granger, principal at Shadow Oaks. I'm so proud of my staff and all that they do every day, but I cannot take this award as a level A just on the merits of Shadow Oaks, because if you know anything about our rating system, growth comes from the intermediate school, and they did a wonderful job with the students that we sent them. And so I do accept this on behalf of Shadow Oaks and Dr. Robinson and the intermediate school. Thank you so much.
We thank all of our teachers, administrators, and students for the hard work they put in to achieve this goal. It's really quite astounding, really quite astounding. All right, number 5, planning. Mr. Chad, I turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for that. Yeah, this is to revisit an issue that the city has dealt with fairly recently. This is the official case number is 2023 13AI. AI stands for Alderman Initiative. So yeah, back on June the 20th, the city initiated to look at a possible text amendment to the zoning ordinance. And it has to do with the relationship between medical cannabis dispensaries and schools and daycares within the jurisdiction. It was looked at earlier by the Planning Commission, and they recommended, I think they recommended denial on the request. That was their recommendation to the board. So it was looked at recently, but it's being looked at again tonight. So I've got a PowerPoint here, try to run through a few slides to set the stage to help in the decision-making process. Yes, that one. Next slide. All right, thank you. So what we've got here is the definition of daycare center. Like I tell staff often, with zoning, lots of times things boil down to definitions. What is defined as something, or what's not defined as something. And those are very key and critical based and to making decisions on whether people get to do new land uses on property or not. So in this case of the city's zoning ordinance, we find definition number 28, daycare center. So I'll just read that here for clarity. A facility which provides shelter and personal care on a regular basis for 6 or more children who are not related within the third degree, computed according to civil law, to the operator for 4 or more hours of any part of a 24-hour day, whether such place be organized or operated for profit or not. The term daycare center includes child care facility, kindergarten, nurseries, or any other facility that falls within the scope of the definitions set forth above, regardless of auspices. So the next paragraph there says the Mississippi state law on medical cannabis dispensaries, they established a relationship between medical cannabis dispensaries and schools, daycares, and churches, sometimes referred to as religious institutions. And then earlier this year, the city of Horn Lake amended the zoning ordinance to establish medical cannabis dispensaries within the jurisdiction, but did establish a 1,700 feet of separation between dispensaries and the 3 listed land uses. Those 3 listed land uses: schools, daycares, and churches. Next slide. So what I've done here is, through this item T, this is just an excerpt right from the city zoning ordinance under Article 5, and it basically talks about medical cannabis and the parameters established within the city. And so one of the things it stated was the areas of town they could possibly be established. And then under item 2B, it says here at the very first part, it says no dispensary may be located within 1,700 feet of any church, school, or child care facility. And then it tells about how that gets measured. So it appears that it was in sync, if you will, with what the state had established last year at a statewide level to establish a relationship between those 3 land uses and dispensaries. But it reads here, this applies to dispensary and their location to those other land uses. So moving on to the next slide. Yes, very good, thank you. So there's currently 5 daycares established and operating within Horn Lake that have business licenses from the city. They were notified by mail of the issue at hand, because they could be affected one way or another depending on what is decided. So 4 or 5 of them were notified via letter, and then the other one was notified to them verbally in mid-September. And those businesses are listed there. There's 5 of them. Of the 5, 4 of them have commercial zoning, either C3 or C4. One of them is in a residential zone, the R8 zoning district, which is number 3 there. Next slide. So what you see here is the existing chart. There's a land use chart in Article 12 of the city zoning ordinance that lays out all of the either permitted land uses, a land use that's not allowed or not permitted in a particular zoning district, or if it's only permitted through a conditional use or conditional use permit that's approved by this board. And so this is just an excerpt from Article 12. It's the use chart. And the use chart breaks down the uses into major categories. You got the commercial land uses, industrial or manufacturing land uses, and then there's more like other uses, and then like residential land uses. So this is from the commercial portion of the chart. And this is how it appears currently in the zoning ordinance. You'll see the letter P, which stands for a permitted land use, and then the number 31. And you can see the different zoning districts, and then you can see what we've tried to do here is just take an excerpt from the chart for daycare centers and then schools, whether they be public or private. The 31 is actually, in the zoning ordinance, is quite small. It's a footnote. So I've made it a little bit larger here so people could read it a little bit plainer in the PowerPoint presentation. So, but it basically is just a footnote. And I like to think of the footnotes often, at least the way that the city is handling things, is kind of like performance conditions or provisions that apply to a specific land use in a specific zoning district. So in this case, it's footnote 31. I think there's, with daycare centers, there's like 5 requirements. For example, one of those is for a daycare center that if it was to be established, they would have to establish a 4,000 square foot minimum outside play or recreational area. So, so next slide, please. So what's proposed, going back to the Alderman initiative, is to reduce the number of zoning districts. Daycare centers are allowed by right, and then also of schools. And so this is what's proposed, is basically just reduce daycare centers and schools, just that would be allowed by right in just the C1 zoning district, which is a commercial zoning district. One of the things that presents as a matter of reality is if with those other daycares that are already established within the jurisdiction in C3 or C4, they would make them non-conforming uses. So there's wording in the zoning ordinance on a non-conforming use. If it's damaged by more than 50%, it cannot be rebuilt unless it gets zoning conformance, which it may or may not be able to obtain. So that's a key thing worth noting. Next slide. So now this is where I was talking about the other part of the chart where it's broken into major categories. Those were commercial land uses. These are like other permitted uses. So you'll notice here the change is the zoning districts that are in the chart. So this is the AR, which is the agricultural residential district, and then you see all the residential districts in the city and also the PUD zone listed. And this here mainly is, the reason I brought this in was that if changes are made to the table, you can see here is the letter S, which I think the letter S is a remnant from past times with the city. There's no really key to what it really indicates, whatever it means, if it means a special use permit is required or if it means something else. So it's just very ambiguous from an administrative standpoint for staff. So if something's changed in this section, it'd be nice to change this section as well. So then we get the next slide, which is here number 4. Change all those S's to the letter P as basically permitted land uses. So that would be the only change there. Really nothing substance, it's just changing the letter for clarity from an administrative standpoint. So we have a possible motion here. Next slide, please. So yeah, so this is a possible motion on the issue, depending on what the board wants to do. So it seems like from what the legislature did and what the city did is that the distance requirement was active or applicable for cannabis dispensaries that were wanting to establish in relation to those other 3 land uses and not applicable the other way around. The city could apply some distance or separation, but if the city wanted to do so, please do that in Article 12. And the reason I state that is that sometime down the road, we get a call or somebody walks in or somebody emails and wants to know, can I establish a school or a daycare center in a particular zoning district? If there was a separation for those land uses from dispensaries, the first thought would not be to go to the medical cannabis section of the ordinance. We'd go to the use chart. So the use chart would be the thing that would have to be amended if the board wanted to establish a distance of those 3 or those 2 land uses from dispensaries. So that's just kind of a side note, but it's important nonetheless. So that would conclude the presentation unless you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Barr. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Barr? Alderman Johnson.
Mr. Barr, thank you so much for your due diligence on this. We know that it is very important. One question that I do have is what I'm hearing is this does not affect the already established schools and daycares at this point. This is for new businesses that are coming in, is that right?
Let's see if I could, if Jim could go to one of the previous slides. It would be number 2, not the second slide, but it just has a number 2. Yes, that one. Thank you. Thank you, Jim. So yeah, what's proposed here is there would be a reduction. The change would be mainly from number 1 to number 2, and would be a reduction of the zoning districts that would allow and be permitted by right for daycares and schools down just to the C1 zone. So if let's say there's a daycare out there that's established in a C3 zone and that gets taken away, that would become automatically a non-conforming use. So the thing to note there is if it gets wiped out the next day, let's say by fire or tornado or whatever, if they come in to pull permits to reestablish, they would not be able to reestablish, but they still may be on, they still would have obligations, whether they have a loan or they have lease payments or something like that, but they would have no way to generate income unless they could secure zoning, which in this case, they may have to downzone it from C3 to C1. So now whether that would be successful or not, I don't know. But that would be the change as proposed, coming from the original initiative back in June.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any comments?
Mayor.
Alderman Geis.
Yes, Mr. Barr, I want to thank you for the work you did on this and all that. I read over it, and at least my intent on this request was we had a situation where a business was trying to go into a prime piece of real estate. We were afraid of two things. One, it could affect our medical marijuana zone, but also what type of businesses we want on our prime real estate. So what I didn't want to occur was the existing ones, if there was a fire or damage, that they couldn't rebuild. That wasn't the goal. Thinking about it, I think the simplest course of action to meet what I was trying to do would be simply to change the zoning that for daycares, schools, that they're all a conditional use regardless of what zone they're in. So they would have to come to the Planning Commission, explain why they should be able to build there, and then come to the board and us approve the plan if we think it fits within the character of that area that they're trying to build. So it would be my request that we not approve this ordinance change, but to change it simply for those type businesses to be just simply a conditional use.
Alderman Young.
Bravo, Mr. Geis, that's exactly correct. Bravo. Mr. Barr, back in your presentation, which was extremely detailed, thank you. Someday you can explain to me how you did all that. We'll talk about that then. You said something about this daycare and that daycare, which goes back to Ms. Johnson's thought. Before the debacle with CVS, at best, was a debacle, were there any daycares within 1,700 square feet of any location that is currently asking for permits to be a dispensary?
Let me ponder the question. I don't have the distance maps up in front of me. I might be able to do that. I'm trying to think.
The answer is no.
So, yeah, I don't, without checking or whatever, I hate to give a just off the hip type answer or whatever.
Right.
I mean, obviously, the suggestion by Mr. Geis, Alderman Geis, is very valid. If the board wanted to go with conditional use as opposed to just outright change it from a P to a blank, because when a person looks at the chart, when they look at a chart and they see a box and there's nothing there, that means that land use in that particular zoning district is not allowed. That's what that means. Right. So giving it a letter or initial, the P stands for permitted or allowed by right, without a conditional use, without changing zoning, and then the letter C as a conditional use is required, and which would take review by the Planning Commission and then approval by this board.
Yeah, and I completely agree with what he's saying. Mr. Robinson, can you go back to 2B, please? Wherever that was, up there somewhere. Now, it states right there, if I read this right, no dispensary may be located within 1,700 feet of any school, church, or child facility as measured in a straight line, yada, 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 yada. Any school, church, or child care facility. Any. So how do we get around letting the daycare, if what's good for the goose should be for the gander? And the last time we had this discussion, I told you that you misread, and you did. It doesn't say we allow, and we don't go back to the state law. That's the reason we wrote our own. Now, I wasn't a big proponent for the dispensaries, but they're here now. And the exact reason that this committee did what it did was to allow these people to survive in Horn Lake because there are people that need this. I agree with Alderman Geis, he's exactly right. But this was totally misread, because it doesn't say they can be there. It says they can't be there. And I think this board is smart enough to figure out what we voted on. These locations will not be located any closer. These locations, that includes all those locations, which is a dispensary, a church, a school, or a daycare. But I'll follow Mr. Geis's lead, and we'll move forward on that, because I think that's probably the only easy way out of this, sir.
Is there any more discussion? Alderman Dupree.
The question was, were there any applications for dispensaries prior to the daycare? The answer is yes. Right? And I said that a couple of months ago. Why did the daycare get allowed to get a permit to move in when it was already in our ordinance that they couldn't? So I just don't understand that. Can somebody explain it to me?
Alderman Bostic.
I guess I got confused too, because we all voted on that new ordinance
That's right.
that Alderman Young. Right. And so I just don't understand how anything took place.
It shouldn't have.
How do we fix that?
Well, let me jump.
Mr. Campbell.
You aren't going to like what I say anyway about this, but I'll say it again. I think this is what we're going to do tonight will solve the issue. But when we adopted the medical cannabis ordinance, the board did not change the zoning for any daycare or school. It didn't affect them. It only affected dispensaries. It regulated where dispensaries could go. So if a school or daycare wanted to move closer to a dispensary that was already licensed or had applied for a license, it could. It does. It just regulates the zoning for dispensaries. It doesn't regulate the zoning for churches, schools, or daycares. We could have done that, and we're kind of doing that tonight. But that ordinance didn't do that.
Any more discussion? All right, we have on 5A.
Mr. Mayor,
Sir,
this is a public hearing on this
Okay.
proposed text amendment, so I believe there's at least one person in the audience that wants to speak.
okay, it's a public hearing. I declare it now open. Is anyone in the audience who wishes to speak yea or nay on this? Yes, ma'am. Come on forward, please. All right, if you just give we need your name and address for the minute, since you're participating in if you.
Michelle Granger, 2930 Windsor Cove, Horn Lake. My question is, are you changing things to adapt to the dispensaries? So
Alderman Geis.
are we closing in where daycares and schools and churches can be located because of the fact that dispensaries have come in or want to come in?
Alderman Geis.
Not really. The concern was, there was two concerns. One was we established two really small medical marijuana areas, and that we were concerned that locating that business there would basically knock out one of those. It was specific to that specific location. Yes, ma'am.
Businesses.
Yes, ma'am. That one specific business. But we have a secondary issue that we go through all the time, and we get a lot of complaints on from citizens that why are we getting another gas station? Why are we getting another car wash? All these things. And quite often, our hands are completely tied. We can't do a thing about it because it's by right. So this gives us the idea that I just came up with would give us a way to have a say in that. It doesn't mean, one thing, a church can go wherever it wants to go, a house of worship. That's governed by federal law. That's why we aren't even mentioning that here. But the schools, daycares, ultimately it could be gas stations, car washes, whatever we choose to make conditional use. So that's the purpose of it. It's not that we don't want another school in Horn Lake or necessarily another daycare. It's where those are located that is our concern.
Right, so when you proposed the conditional use, that opened that back up, because what I was seeing prior to that was pretty closed in.
Yes, ma'am, and that's why once I read it, and that's why we have Mr. Barr and an attorney here, us as politicians come up with ideas, and then we find out when the experts start talking about it that it doesn't do what we want it to do, or it does way more than we want it to do. So that's why I'm changing course on that. So we have no desire to necessarily chase any business off. It's just control where they're placed.
Okay, thank you for that, because being an educator, I know how important it is, and being in Horn Lake and being a new grandmother, we need some more daycares.
Congratulations to you. And wait, Ms. Granger, does anyone else have any questions or comments from Ms. Alderman Johnson?
Mrs. Granger, I just want to add that before, when we talked about it, this issue before, there was a daycare or school can move as close to a dispensary as it would like. Is that right? Am I saying it right? But the dispensary could not move close to the daycare or school. So we're just trying to get the language plain so that everybody can be on the same page. And when they come in to speak with us, we'll have to make those changes during that time.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much.
Anyone else? Congratulations on the grandbaby.
Thank you.
And congratulations on the award, the grade.
Thanks. I'm going to Texas Roadhouse. We have a fundraiser.
Thank you. Ms. Granger, if there's any, I had the same concerns that you just voiced, so thank you. Makes me feel better. Thank you. And my understanding was just like you said, that dispensaries could not come within a certain distance from any of the three, but they could open up just as close, right? But if we change this to a conditional use, are we opening a can of worms for everything that comes up here? Anybody that wanted to, Mr. Barr, if I'm understanding correctly, and I'm probably not, so please straighten me out. If they change this to conditional use, that means anybody that wanted to open a business would have to get a conditional use for it?
Very good question. No, it would only, as far as what we've got in the chart and what the board is looking at tonight, it would just revolve around daycare centers and then either private or public schools. And with the conditional use, I mean, to me, it's one of my favorite tools of all time in planning and zoning, because a jurisdiction can look at one land use at a time, because the difficulty with, like, let's say a rezoning, I mean, there could be 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 different land uses that a board has to wrap their head around on a particular piece of property or a group of properties. But a conditional use is nice because you can look at one land use, maybe two, for one piece of property, and then try with public input, property input, views from the Planning Commission and the board, is to craft specific conditions that would hopefully make the land use, whatever's proposed, amenable to adjacent property owners and then the jurisdiction itself. So to me, a conditional use is like my favorite thing because we can be very specific and we can try to create things to make things harmonious among land uses, which that's one of the main purposes of the zoning altogether. So in this case, you know, unless the board wants to extend it beyond, but we're only looking at, from the chart here, from the original Alderman initiative, was for daycare centers and schools, private and public schools. So if you change some of the letters P, which are permitted there now in some of the zoning districts, to the letter C, if someone wanted to establish those land uses, they would have to file for conditional use. It would go before the Planning Commission, which there's 6 or 7 factors in the city's zoning ordinance that the Planning Commission looks at, and then there's another 6 or 7 different factors, even though fairly closely related to the Planning Commission factors, that the Board of Aldermen can look at when they analyze a conditional use request. Does that answer the question?
Probably more than I needed, but thank you.
I like to be thorough.
But I'm still a little confused on this. Say I have a piece of property for sale, all right? And right now it might be zone P, and it gets changed to C. If I go to market that property, am I not knocking out a lot of potential investors? Because they say if I have to, I don't know if that'll be approved or not.
So
Should I put my time and money in doing diligence and coming up with plans when it might not be approved?
okay.
I just look at it kind of devil's advocate here, just to try to catch it both sides.
No, very good question. So the letter P just stands for permitted, so that the city doesn't have a zoning district that starts with the letter P other than, I think, the planned business park or the PUD, which is a planned unit district. It's a custom build type of zoning classification. So let's use like probably a typical thing here. Somebody may want to establish a daycare in a C3 or a C4 zone. Right now it's permitted by right. They come in, they file building permit, they do those types of things. If they're building a new building, it would be site plan design review. If it gets changed to a C, it would take a conditional use, and then that would be through the process for Planning Commission review and then Board of Aldermen review. Now, we can do that. Lots of times we'll process a case where if someone wants to buy a piece of property, they don't have to own it. But we'll accept a conditional use request or some other request for that matter, as long as they have the current property owner's signature on the application, because that shows the owner's consent. And then the terms of purchase or lease between those two parties, let's say somebody trying to sell and someone trying to buy, that we leave that up to those parties as far as the terms, because it could very well read, the property changes hands if the conditional use permit is approved by the jurisdiction or whatever. So we will do that from time to time. That way there's really no risk at buying the property, and then they don't really know what the outcome will be. They can sign a potential contract to buy it, file the application signed by the current landowner, and then when it gets processed, and if it gets approved, then they can do the conveyance from seller to buyer. If it gets disapproved, then it probably falls by the wayside.
Thank you, sir, but say I want to buy a piece of property from you, and it would be conditional use. Would I be willing to spend the money to go through all the steps to come before the Planning Commission? This is what I want to do. Here's my rough plans, like you say, yada, yada, yada. And then, but then the Planning Commission, because it's going to be a conditional use, cannot give me a direct answer. I would have to come before this board. I would not have any guidance ahead of time. Whereas with the letter P, if I wanted to open a certain business, I would try to find an area, C3, C4, whatever area it may be, where I know that would be permitted. So you're making me jump through a whole lot of hoops, and there's a 50-50 chance I probably wouldn't get approved, but I got to spend my time and money to buy something from you.
So no, I think you understand that correctly or whatever. Yeah, the conditional use does. Lots of times I'll explain to to potential applicants in pre-development meetings is that, you know, a rezoning is a high hurdle, but a conditional use is a smaller hurdle typically. But it is a hurdle that somebody has to go through, and it has to have approval by the board.
All right, sir. Is there anyone else in the audience that has anything to say? Is there anyone else in the audience that has anything to say? This public hearing is now closed. All right, do we have any discussion on the board? Okay, the first thing we've got to vote on is, sir, Alderman Geis.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to change our zoning ordinance to reflect that schools, either public or private, and daycares are a conditional use in all zoning areas.
Would that not require legal notices, zoning?
We did that to get here tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so this is taken care of.
Yes, sir.
All right, let me ask you this. Do we need to vote on letter A first and say no to that, then bring up another motion?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor, that's just the proposal that came up, that went through the planning department and the planning commission. The board certainly can either approve or disapprove of that or amend it, as they make a motion.
All right, so Alderman Geis is amending it. Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Geis. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Alderman Young. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostick.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Klein.
Aye. Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. All right, now we're going down to the resolution. We have some property here that was served by our code enforcement. They asked for to get in compliance with the ordinances. They have not done so. So it's coming before us tonight for the city to clean it up. This is a public hearing, now open. Anyone have any remarks on any of this property? It's listed up there on the top left-hand side. Anyone? There being no discussion from the audience, the public hearing is now closed. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Bostick.
yeah, I make a motion to approve the resolution for cleaning the private property of the addresses that are listed.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Bostick. We have a second by Alderman Dupree. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bostick. Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. All right, we're on letter B under Roman numeral 6, new business. Discussion regarding the SPOA and the proposed animal shelter. Who wanted this brought up? Alderman Young. Yes, sir.
I know everybody on this board and others in this building, just the plethora of emails that we've gotten in the last 10, 12 days. I found some interesting stuff. I want to make it perfectly clear. I believe we need a new animal shelter. I don't think we need a $6 million animal shelter. We don't need a legacy project. The city can't afford it. To date, we spent over $128,000 out of our general fund for a cartoon picture of an animal shelter. We got the guy wanting to come back in there and bring 2 or 3 other people in there. It's going to cost another $6,000 to $7,000 because we agreed to pay all his expenses and flights and food and whatever. Seems a bit excessive. When we sat here not too long ago, and deluged an individual for a 2-year service to this city, we didn't even pay him out of general funds. We paid him out of economic development. That was less than $88,000 for 2 years. I just do not see the need for a $6 million animal shelter. Alderman Dupree and myself and Mr. Robinson has visited the animal shelter in Hernando. It's an extremely nice shelter. They did that for just a little over $1 million, 1.3, 1.4, whatever it was. I think that if we took that and doubled it, I think it would be a gem for the city of Horn Lake. It's just, you build a bigger grocery store, you're just gonna have more things on the shelves. We're going to have to make some tough decisions down there at the shelter. But building a $6 million animal, I don't think that sending this city into debt is a conservative thing to do. It's not the right thing to do. And I just would like to make a motion that we withdraw all our consensus and all of our declarations and everything else with Shelter Planners of America and move forward to somebody who's more in tune with what the city is required to do. This thing has got to be almost $7 million now, and hell, we ain't even got it off paper.
We have a motion by Alderman Young. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Dupree. Do we have any discussion?
Mayor,
Alderman Dupree.
do y'all remember when we started talking about this? How long has it been? I don't remember.
It's been a long time.
It's been over a year. So it's been over a year and nothing's been done, basically. We have nothing in writing that we can say, hey, this is what we want. It's been over a year. We are in control of this and we haven't done anything. And just to say a little bit about the person we had helping our city out on getting new businesses in. We sat up here and we talked about, haven't seen anything on paper, what has he done? He had several things in the fire working. We got one, and we still haven't done anything about it. And everybody wanted to get on somebody else's case because he hadn't done anything. I just don't understand. We got one, he had several. And everybody turned against him. So I think if we can't get our own stuff in order, how can you say, well, anyway, I'm going to get off that subject. Let's get back to this. I did like the animal shelter in Hernando. It was basically state of the art. We do need probably double the size of that animal shelter. It's absolutely phenomenal. If you haven't been there, please go visit. So when I saw that animal shelter and I saw how it was run, I was very impressed. And if they can do that for just over $1 million, why can't we do something like that for, $2 million, $2.5 million? And it holds 80, 90 animals. So that's why I second that motion. It's because we can save the money and have a very, very nice facility. That's all.
Anybody else have any remarks? Before we continue, I'd like to welcome our County Supervisor, Mark Gardner, County Supervisor Lee, and is that you, Mr. Smith? Officer Smith, thank y'all for attending. We're honored to have y'all here. And getting back to the motion, is there any discussion on the motion that was made and seconded? Any more discussion? Alderman Bostic.
No information's been put before us to make an informed decision on what they're making a motion. So I'd like to have some more information on what it did cost line by line for Hernando, what we approved from this board to do what we were going to do before I can make an informed decision.
Anyone else?
Mayor,
Alderman Geis.
I got a question for Jim. Jim, how much did we just spend to remodel City Hall?
Ain't got nothing to do with it.
The bond was for 2.5 million. The bid came in a little over 1.8 million. You know, with the change orders, it's going to be close to 1.9.
Okay, so we spending $2 million to refurbish a building, and under the cost of things today in 2023, having a brand-new state-of-the-art shelter built for under $6 does not sound excessive to me. We already approved a bond issue for this. When we voted for that bond issue, we were advised that the city could afford it. We did a bond issue for both of those projects. So my opinion on it hasn't changed. My opinion on the animal shelter doesn't change based on the demise of the economic development employee. It's based on the needs of our city and the animals. And Horn Lake for too long has, I'm trying to think of the way to word this without saying it bad. We have half-assed things we've done in this city long as I've been here. And to now decide, well, we want to go cheap on this too, just all of us ran, or at least I did, because I was tired of that. So I'm going to stick with what my plan was, and people vote however they vote. No hard feelings there.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Many moons ago, I remember the dog shelter we had. It was a chain link fence with one dog house in it, and we had it pretty well full. So I'm with guys. You know, we finally got the money. I mean, we can do one thing we can do is furnish a good shelter. I'm talking about, you know, state of the art. He's been working on this for years and years and years. And we increased from that chain link fence doghouse, and now we're going to try to be top of the line, #1 in DeSoto County. Might be in the whole Mississippi. But I'm for it because I love dogs and cats. I was a dog man, and my dog died, and my neighbor gave me her cat. So now I'm a cat man. So thank you.
Any more discussion? Alderman Klein.
Yes, Mayor. And looking at this situation, we're mixing the apples to oranges. The dog shelter is a vision I think we all had that would bring the Horn Lake up to a different level, and also bring in people into our city, because we plan on probably putting a dog park in there, you know, that they'll come in and use. So I'm just wondering if, with all the votes that we've done over this period of time, have we not made the commitment already to these people? And would we be reneging? And that question goes to you there, Mr. Campbell.
Alderman Klein, we do have a contract with the current architect, and there is a termination provision in it. We would have to give 7 days written notice and obviously pay them for all services done up until that time.
Thank you, sir.
That would include the drawings for the new animal shelter.
Yes, sir. Assuming they've been drawn, it would include any work that they've done to date.
Thank you, sir. Is there any more discussion? Alderman Dupree.
what I said earlier. You can double the size of what Hernando has. And I heard others down here say the state of the art. It could still be state of the art. It could still be the nicest around. It could be the top of the line of anywhere else. If you double the size of what they have, all the technology that's put into it, you can still have the cameras in there, just whatever, the soundproofing. And we could still save $4 million and still have a state-of-the-art animal shelter. Yes, it's been approved. It's in the bond. But just because it's approved don't mean that we have to spend it. When we talk about conservativity, that means money too. Yes, you're gonna have state-of-the-art and save the money. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any more discussion? Alderman Young.
Alderman Bledsoe, you're right, we do have the money because we borrowed it. So we're going backwards in debt again. Not very conservative. Has anybody else on this diocese visited any animal shelters in a 4-county region in the last little bit to see how state-of-the-art they are? One. Mr. Geis, out of those that you visited, are they $6 million? 2 of them were double that. Where were they? One, actually both of them in Memphis. Memphis. City of 700,000 people. We got 27,000. I really don't see the opportunity to be good stewards of the money of the people of Horn Lake when we can build a state-of-the-art, as you have said. That's what we're doing. We don't need a $6 million legacy project. It's not feasible. It's not good for the city of Horn Lake. It's going to put us into debt. And the reason we have money now is because we're watching our money. We're not flushing it. We've got, in case we don't remember, we've got a sewer system we got to worry about. We got the money for that. It's not good common sense to spend $6 million on something that these people out here are going to have to pay for. That's my word, sir.
Now, let's make sure we keep nothing personal in these discussions, please. I know, but it's been on down here too. All right. Now, you mentioned something that I haven't seen anything about, that a gentleman from SPOA is coming to town and bringing people with him. Is that correct?
Yes, Mayor, we do have a meeting Thursday and Friday this week. They're coming back in with the next phase to talk about actually the structure, to be able to get construction documents put together to go out to bid is the next step. So we'll be discussing the physical construction, what all is going to go into it material-wise, so they can do a full set of construction documents to advertise and obtain bids, and then we'll know the true cost of the facility.
Well, I do know, and I'm not, both discussions here have been very valid and very nice. I know that one of my worries has been, and I'm sure Alderman Geis and Alderman Young, the costs seem to have been escalating the last time we talked about it. And why is he bringing a group that we have to pay for?
Well, I'm not bringing them personally, Mayor, but
I know you're not, but I mean, the gentleman from SPOA is.
they have proposed, and he is bringing his support team that is helping. They have, from what I understand, they have different aspects of putting the construction documents together. Like with this facility, when the renovation AERC came in with the architect, and they brought in the interior designers. They brought in, you know, some of the electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, and these folks, I believe, are folks that have different tasks in putting the construction documents together.
Well, I appreciate the explanation, because I wondered why it was a group coming in here that we're gonna have to pay for. Okay, is there any more discussion?
All right.
Alderman Dupree.
You know, if I owned a business and they just gonna pay me really good money if I get that contract, I'm gonna spend the money, bring whoever I want, to come to the city and say, hey, I want your business. So they have to spend their own money. So the city is paying for these people to come in, and then again, at the end, we're gonna pay them more. I don't understand why we have to pay somebody who wants our business.
Alderman Young.
Just one thing I thought about, it's a really good thought, actually, that somebody brought up down there. Mr. Jim, how much do you think it'll cost to bring those folks over here? Because we got to pay for everything: food, cars, rooms, airplane flights, all that. I mean, for 3 people, now he's trying to get 2 days, I understood, or tried to get 2 days.
Yes, he is scheduled for 2 days. He's saying that it'll probably be 2 8-hour days to go through each item one by one to build the construction documents. And I'm not for sure. I haven't checked airline tickets from Dallas. They are coming out of Dallas, and depending on how much those tickets cost, it would be that, and then hotel rooms. And I'm trying to remember the contract. It does cover all that: airfare, hotel, and meals, and everything that they incur while they're here.
Thank you. Yeah, it looks like the last time he came up here by himself was about $8,900, so I can only imagine what 3's gonna be. It isn't nothing personal. It's about the city. We can pay the man, and Mr. Billy is right in his essence. I looked at the contract, and yeah, we'll owe this guy some money, his group. But the last time we made changes, he charged us $16,059.54. I don't believe it'll be that much if we can him now. Because what he's gonna do is he's gonna come up here with his group, and we're gonna sit down at a table, and we're gonna say, well, we like this, or we don't like that, or we need to move this bolt, or we need to add a light fixture here. And then he's gonna go home in Dallas, sit behind his computer, and he's gonna move all that stuff, and he's gonna send us another invoice for $16,000 or $20,000 or $32,000 like he did the last time. So that's gonna put us at over $150,000, maybe $151,000, $52,000. I believe we can pull the plug on this thing, pay this guy, his group, what we owe him, even if it's $200,000, and still save $4 million. That seems to be good government to me. That's all I got, sir.
Any more discussion? Any more discussion? All right, we have a motion.
Mayor.
Oh, Alderman Johnson. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Mayor, I missed the motion. I would like to hear it again.
The motion is, well, Mr. Jim can read it specifically, is to forget this, it's POA. Mr. Jim, please.
Well, in essence, it is to cancel all agreements and contracts with Shelter Planners of America, unless I forgot something, Mr. Billy.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. We have a motion. We have a second. Alderman Bostic.
Bledsoe.
Oh, Alderman Bledsoe.
Back when we did all this, and we gonna borrow the money, we said it's gonna be this, we're gonna be this for City Hall. We done had change orders in City Hall. I've never seen a building yet that hadn't had change orders. And, we had 300,000 when we built this thing. So that's quite a bit. I thought we had most of this stuff settled, and we was gonna pick a group, and he's gonna give us a price, and that's gonna be it. Now we're doing all the way around, you know,
Things changed.
it's kind of changing order. I don't understand all that. Maybe we can cut one part of it off and make it 4 million or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, I've seen a little bit of plans, but both of them look kind of the same to me.
So you, if I understand you correctly, you've been concerned, or one of your concerns is that we got a rough price from SPOA at first, and now he's raised it. Is that what, if I understand you correctly?
Well, no, I just want a solid price, so this is what it's gonna be, and then we vote on it, whether it's $4,000 or $5,000, $1 million, excuse me, I can't talk millions. You know, whatever, my house was supposed to be X number of dollars, and then I agreed to it, then next thing I know, they tell me, well, we gotta put stairs in because you didn't put them in. I mean, that's what you gotta have. So I have to have it, but I want something solid, that this is what it's gonna be, and we go from there, instead of they're coming in, then if somebody else comes in, you know, I don't know.
Well,
I just like a nice, great animal shelter, because we've been waiting for, I've been doing this for a long time, 17 years.
well, it's the right thing to do, provide those creatures with as much comfort as we can. Now, I want to make sure if I'm understanding what you're suggesting, is to let this group come in, let them figure out, here's what it's going to be, dollar and cents, and then the board vote on that? Is that what you're saying?
Okay, who's gonna be in there telling them this stuff?
Sir?
Mr. Geist gonna be in there telling them they need to move this light bulb over here? Or are they just gonna do it on their own, or is Jim gonna do it? Or who's gonna do it? I just wanna know some feet to it. I mean, he can answer probably.
Okay, but let me get Mr. Jim first. He had his hand up, please.
No, I was just putting my hand up to the mic, but.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I mean, there is you all adopted a committee. That committee consisted of several people, and one is myself, Miss AJ as staff here, Alderman Geis, Alderman Dupree, and Alderman Young. And also, we have since added Mr. Glenn, since he is our animal control director. So that's the committee, Alderman Bledsoe, that has been meeting with them over the past year. And Mr. Glenn has been on board for one of those meetings since then.
So is what you're suggesting is to let this group come and meet with the committee? Is that what you're suggesting? Okay. Okay.
It might be a whole million. I keep saying 4,000. $1 million, or it could be 5 million. Or we might cut something off and get it down lower. I don't know. You know, we can adjust once we see what they got. And they say, okay, it's gonna be 5 million. Okay, well, cut them kennels out right there. We'll take half those kennels, and then it's gonna be 3 million. So, you know, that's all, you know.
Okay.
That's my.
But your motion still stands?
Yeah, if I may.
Sure, yes, sir.
I agree with what you're saying. The point that we're at now, and the reason that I brought this whole thing up is exactly your point about the change orders for this building. We've got a cartoon picture of what this thing's gonna look like. And we've adjusted it twice or 3 times, and they've done this and they've done that, and we're $150,000 into this thing, and we hadn't even got to the change order part yet. What are we gonna do then? We got a group that built an animal shelter down here that's on paper, that's been done, that is but, and the lights are burning for $1.2 to $1.5 million. Done deal. Double it. We're at 3.2. We just saved ourselves. I'll go with whatever the vote says, or whatever the group said, but I'm telling you, I'm not voting to keep using this guy. We started out, And it just continues and continues. Every time we get an email, he's clocking us, guys. 138 emails from this guy in the last year. It's cost us a lot. It's gonna cost us even more. I don't see the value in it. I don't see the value.
Mayor.
Alderman Dupree, and let's move along, gentlemen. We've got visitors here for executive session and other business to get to. Also, I think Alderman Dupree, please.
All right, Mr. Jim, when we started this and he gave us our first price, do you have that list, or that number?
Well, I was looking for some of that information. I mean, a lot of those, and I'll keep trying to look, but they did start out anywhere from, I think it was 4.5 to 5.6. And then as we progressed and some of the expenses went up with materials and everything, as we met again, some of those prices did go up. And the last, I think, proposal that he had sent before we kind of narrowed it down, going to Alderman Bostic, or Alderman Bledsoe's comments, it was at around 6 to, he had two different ranges for one that had, I guess, less amenities and one that had more, and the less amenities was about 6 million. The more amenities was 7.5 million. And to Alderman Bledsoe's comments, we kind of have narrowed things down because Mr. Mike with Shelter Planners of America has given us a potential cost estimate. And one thing that we've had to do, because the prices have continued to go up since we've been meeting, he has asked the committee what is the highest we are willing to go, and we said 6 million. The original design, we've got some preliminary designs. He is talking now about cutting out the back third, so reducing the size of the animal shelter to bring it down to the 6 million. So we are reducing the size from what he's proposing. We haven't seen, I guess, everything he's going to present later this week, but he is talking about cutting out about the back third of the original proposed animal shelter to bring it back down to the 6 million.
Well, if he cuts out the back third, what is he cutting out? It was something that was just, we don't need. If we don't need it, why was it on there in the first place?
Well, the original, when we did the feasibility study, he asked the committee, and he came in town and looked at how we're currently operating. We probably, at that time when he came in town, we had about 90 dogs. So he was basing it on the feasibility study. The size of what he started projecting was to be able to house at least 80 dogs. So we had 82 kennels for dogs and 20 something cats. And the back third will cut out about 20 kennels. So, we're going to go down to about 60 to 62 kennels for dogs.
We won't get what we wanted.
From the original feasibility study, we will not.
Okay, all right. Alderman Bledsoe, then we can
Wasn't done,
move
Mayor.
on.
I think you got a committee, we need to see what they say and go with it. I mean, that's why you have a committee, I think.
All right, so we have a motion. Sir,
I wasn't done, Mayor, I apologize.
okay, go ahead, sir.
I just want to get this out. In a year, it's gone up $1.5 million, and you're going to cut out a third? That don't seem right. That is spending money on something we're not going to potentially get at the end. Think about that, $1.5 million in a year, and And the point is, it keeps going up, and we've been working on this a year, and we can't even settle anything. So now we're gonna pay these guys to come in to tell us ask us what we need and go back. If we don't get what we want, why spend all this money with this company? This company has put us off and put us off and put us off for the last year. If they haven't put us off, why have we put them off? I mean, all I've seen is emails, and I've seen pictures of what we could want or potentially want. But $1.5 million more in the last year, because of construction prices going up, how much longer are we gonna keep doing this? Another year, another 6 months, and it's gonna go up another $500,000 to $1 million? We need to come to an end. This company, it doesn't look like it's gonna come to an end, and we keep spending money. We don't need to be spending that money. That's just my thoughts.
Okay, is there any more discussion? We have a motion by Alderman Young. We have a second by Alderman Dupree. If there is no more discussion, does anybody want the motion read?
It's up to you, sir.
It's up. You want to read it just so everybody, the board, and everybody in the audience understands it and on TV?
Well, the wording may be a little more technical after Mr. Billy gets a hold of it, but for the way I understand it, it's to cancel all contracts and agreements with Shelter Planners of America.
Right, roll call, please.
Alderman Young,
Aye.
Alderman Dupree,
Aye.
Alderman Johnson,
Nay.
Alderman Bostic,
Nay.
Alderman Geis,
Nay.
Alderman Bledsoe,
Nay.
Alderman Klein.
Motion is defeated. 5 opposed, 2 in favor. All right, letter C. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Geis.
I make a motion to designate the following vehicles as unmarked vehicles. 2023 Dodge Durango, VIN number 1C4RDJFGXP C654776, and 2023 Dodge Durango, VIN number CRDJFG5P7654782. Identifying markings would hinder their ability to participate in official crime investigations.
Do we have a second to the motion by Alderman Geis?
Second.
Second by Alderman Klein. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein,
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe,
Aye.
Alderman Geis,
Aye.
Alderman Bostic,
Aye.
Alderman Johnson,
Aye.
Alderman Dupree,
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Letter D. Do we have a, that's not a public hearing, is it? No. Letter D, do we have a motion? Alderman Bostic.
Yeah, I make a motion to request to adopt a resolution regarding the intention to increase the rate for garbage and rubbish collection and disposal.
We have a motion by Alderman Bostic. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Geis. Any discussion?
Mayor,
Sir, Alderman Geis.
I had a question for Mr. Robinson. This increase, this isn't to increase profits for the city, but it's to cover the increase in the contracted price with the company. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. The bids that were presented, and you all accepted ADSI, their rate increase from the bids were an increase from what we currently are charging.
And that was the cheapest increase out of the ones that bid?
Yes, there was a very large range, and one bid was up to $40 a month. Yes, sir.
Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young,
Aye.
Alderman Dupree, Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Roman numeral 7, citizens' remarks. I don't have any.
Yes, we do.
We do. All right, please remember, when you come to before the podium, get behind the podium, it's limited to 3 minutes. And 3 minutes will be termination time. Would you please keep time? Thank you. Mr. Mark Johnson. All right. Ms. Carter. Now remember, Ms. Carter, 3 minutes is. And you've done such wonderful work. But we have executive session, we have people we're waiting to see in that.
Now that I see they're here. Real fast, tonight talking about voting $6 million for animal shelter, $2 million for City Hall renovations. Those are just some numbers I want to have people keep in the back of their mind. Horn Lake Schools have had an amazing school year this past year. As we said earlier, we've had phenomenal growth. Our kids are really striving. Our teachers are doing amazing. Our schools have done something they've never done in forever. We're AB schools. It's amazing. And we've not had a B school since 2017. This is huge for us, for people that we're looking to bring into the community. We want people to move into our community. We want new businesses. We want to build new opportunities. And the families are looking at our school systems. They're looking at our ratings. They're looking at the area, the demographic, the population. Is it safe? Do we feel safe? Do they take our school seriously? Do they not take it seriously? And I feel like this is a very pivotal time for Horn Lake, where we can continue to strive and improve, or we can fall to the wayside again and have to dig ourselves back out of a ditch. Doing all we can to promote our schools, to support our schools, to show the teachers, the staff, even the parents and the children that you support them is huge. No one wanted to say, let's pay $90,000 to help support a SRO program. And I feel like we can put all this other money into other places when this $90,000 ultimately goes to our kids. People say it does not, but ultimately when you do anything that affects the school system, it trickles down to the kids. And I might sound like a broken record, but obviously 167 people agree with me, because I've had 167 people sign this petition. And I just wanted to note, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Thank you.
And thank you for all the work you do for the schools, Ms. Carter. All right. Ms. Pino, thank you so much. Ms. Pino? Does your husband work on computers? Oh, I knew a Mr. Pino that did computer work. All right, Ms. Pino, you have the floor.
So about the animal shelter for the $6 million, I've been to Horn Lake Animal Shelter. It does need an upgrade massively. Been to Hernando's. It is nice. It's $6 million for animals when we already have an overpopulation of animals. You're just giving, saying, okay, here's bigger space. Let me put more animals into it. People around here, last week I think it was, I had to help our SRO with 2 pit bulls on the elementary school property, barking at the kids. They were getting off the buses. We already have a problem. The $6 million worth of a facility is not the answer when that can go towards our kids. I mean, Horn Lake is already considered the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to DeSoto County. So invest in our children, Rec Center, YMCA, anything. Just if you invest in the people, the city will grow. Animals, I love them. I have dogs. I was raised on a farm, but not $6 million worth for animal shelter when it can go towards our children. That money is well spent somewhere else, including the SROs. That's my take on that.
Thank you, Ms. Pino.
You're welcome.
All right, we have Mr. Austin. I can't read the last name. Is it Beard? Come on up, please, Mr. Austin.
Hi, so I'm Austin Beard, U.S. Army veteran, currently serving in the reserves at 5177 Nail Road, Norman Dupree's district. I came here to mostly just make myself available for item L on the consent agenda, which got moved to the executive session, regarding the skate park, getting additional ramps put in there. I think I spoke, maybe it was earlier this year. Had the skateboard park, we had some ramps that were taken away. They just weren't useful anymore, deemed to be, I think, too dangerous. And so what we're trying to do today is just get those replaced, just to keep the park in good condition. And I've been working, doing some great work with Drew Coleman on that. And so I'm not sure how that process goes as far as discussing that today, but I just want to be here to be able to answer the questions just from the perspective of someone who is going to be using that park, and just be representative of the skate park users. So that was my purpose for being here today.
Well, thank you. Does anyone have Alderman Bostic?
Yeah, letter L of our consent agenda tonight approved that work to be done at the skate park.
Oh, I must have missed that.
That's okay. We're good.
I'm new to the process and it moves a little bit quickly, so.
Yeah, Mr. Coleman put that request in and we approved it tonight. So we're looking forward to that improvement at the skate park.
It's great.
He snuck it by everybody. So there you go.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for the work you're doing, and thank you, Mr. Coleman, for really looking sharp over there around the skate park. And I rode over the day, I see they hadn't put down any asphalt yet. I don't know. Not your fault, I was just making an observation. But it's really gonna look nice when they get through asphalt in the road through there. What is that, Mr. Ben Twitchell Drive?
Yes, sir. They're supposed to start tomorrow on that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your service and your continued service, sir. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Alderman. We're going to go quickly. Mayor, Alderman correspondence. I want to thank every department head. We don't have anybody sign. You didn't sign. Okay, come on up, Mr. Johnson.
Sorry about that. I didn't realize they last so long. I just want to say y'all earn your money. So thank y'all for all you do.
You learned it goes, and it's not through yet. It's not through yet.
So Bobby Dupree and I experienced something about 2 months ago that I'm 63 years old. I've seen a lot in my life. Former Ole Miss baseball player. You know, I've been around, and but I came here tonight because something that happened about 2 months ago really shook me and my wife. I'm Clyde Hare's son-in-law.
Oh, it's nice meeting you face to face, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Johnson.
And about 2 months ago, my wife and I we're 4671 Nail Road. My name's Mark Johnson, and we're setting out. And all of a sudden we hear just a screech of tires, and then boom. And we knew what happened because a young boy had ridden his bicycle by our house. And when I looked up, he's laying flat in the road. And the car stopped right in front of our driveway. And so we live right between the new subdivision. Robbie, what was the name of it again? Cole's Place. And they're building a new subdivision also on Horn Lake Road. So all of a sudden, it just seems like the foot traffic, the bicycle traffic, the scooter traffic has just tripled. My mother-in-law, we had her at the house Sunday, and I said, Miss Hare, now that you cannot sit, look out the window and count the 5 without a car is coming by one way or the other. It's like a baby Goodman Road now.
Yes, I hate to rush you, but you've got a minute left.
But what I'm saying is, I had to come tonight just to speak because it's not a matter of if someone else is going to get killed, it's when. Because the foot traffic has tripled now in front of our house on Nail Road. And if you go down Nail Road, it's literally just almost not even hardly enough for 2 cars to pass each other. And if you're walking, you have about this much space on the road, and then, or you're in the ditch. So my concern is there anything that can be done to put sidewalks, to continue sidewalks from where they built the new subdivision from Horn Lake Road on down toward Twin Lakes? Is there anything that can be done? Because, like I said, it's not a matter of if it ever happens, but it's going to be when another person is struck. And thank y'all. I don't have a solution. All I can say is any of my property that needs to go to help to build a sidewalk or anything, feel free to take it.
Thank you. Don't sit down yet. Our city engineer is down there. I thought he was absent. I couldn't see his head. He was leaning back so far, but we'll ask Mr. Vance to look at that possibility and present it to the board, sir. And those motorized wheelchairs, have you still got them, or are they given away?
Sacred Heart is in the process of calling me, and I told them I would load them up and carry them to them.
Thank you, sir. For anybody that might be interested, that's in a group, unfortunately, Mr. Johnson's father-in-law, Mr. Clyde Hare, just a fine gentleman, passed away, and he was confined to those motorized wheelchairs, and Mr. Johnson, thank goodness, doesn't need them, and so he's donating them to charity. So if it doesn't work out from Sacred Heart, you might want to, I know Mr. George is with the Shriners, and he might can. And so anyway, if any of you know anybody that might need them, in case this falls through, please contact me and I can hook you up with Mr. Johnson if that'd be okay.
It's great.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Thank you, sir. All right. I want to thank each and every one of our department heads for all they do for the city and for the citizens mainly of the city. All right. Alderman, now remember, we still have executive session to go, please, Alderman. Alderman Young, you have anything, sir? Alderman Dupree?
No, sir.
Alderman Johnson?
Yes, sir. I just want to invite everyone out to Horn Lake Intermediate, where we'll be celebrating our accomplishments on receiving a B for this past school year accountability. So come out and join us on Friday. We're inviting every department, fire, police. You all are invited to just come and continue to support, as we see it does work when we support our schools. So thank you all so much for what you do.
Thank you, ma'am. Alderman Bostic?
Yeah, I just want to invite everybody out Friday night. Horn Lake Eagles start district play. They finished up their non-district with a big win a couple of weeks ago, which was very exciting, the first win in 15 tries. So it's going to be exciting. Oxford will be coming to town. Game time 7 o'clock, and it'd be great to see everybody out there. We have a good time.
Alderman Geis?
No, sir.
Alderman Bledsoe?
No, sir.
Alderman Klein?
No, sir.
All right, sir. And this Saturday is going to be the Food Truck Festival up in Delta Tech, hosted by our Horn Lake Chamber of Commerce. What time does it start, Alderman Young? 11 to 5. Delta Tech's up there on Interstate Boulevard. You'll have all those wonderful food trucks that make us all go to a heart doctor. So if you get a chance, please go up there. Chief, did you have anything for the board? Anyone have any questions for Chief? As we go down this list, if you have any questions or comments for any of the department heads, please say so. Alderman Dupree.
Oh, Chief, can you get some patrol over in Nicole's place there, parking on the streets again? Thank you.
Mr. Joyner, did you have anything for the board, sir? Anybody have questions for Mr. Joyner? We will be taking a collection to buy him a Mississippi State hat later on this evening.
Mayor. Mayor.
Alderman Young.
I disagree with that. At least we got somebody out there knows what kind of hat to wear.
And he actually has it on correctly. All right. Chief, do you have anything for the board?
Yes, Mayor, just one thing.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Chief, is that a one-day trip or a two-day trip, or might take 6 of them to recover?
At least, down there and back, and doing the event. So you just have to leave house about 3 o'clock in the morning or 4, or we go the night before. But that's up to you,
Chief.
or each person if they wanted to go. We can go either way.
Alderman Dupree.
Hey, Chief, do you come back that very next day or that night?
If we go down the night before, we go down on the 18th, late that afternoon, just to go down and get there, and then we'll go to the class, and then we'll come straight back that afternoon. We should be back by, I believe it was around 4 or 5 o'clock maybe 6 when we got back, but on that Thursday on the 19th, yes.
I'll let you know tomorrow if I can go.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention it, if you will let me know, so I can kind of, right now, I do need to make sure the academy has it. They're just waiting to see if they have any attendees, or if they do, they will do it. If they don't have any attendees, they will cancel it. So right now, they're in the process of seeing how many may be coming.
Mr. Drew, you have anything for the board?
No, sir.
And you've already said about the paving job. Anybody have anything for Mr. Drew? Alderman Bledsoe.
Mr. Drew, that seeds that you got, are they guaranteed? You know, we had one time they planted it and it didn't come up, and we just ate it.
I mean, it's not guaranteed, but it's the same company we've used for the last couple of years, and it has come up every time.
Okay, I might have to get them to come do my house.
Mr. Vance, you have anything for the board?
Just one bit of information here, Mayor, that I guess on a project that we've been, working on for quite some time now is finally coming to fruition here. That's the water distribution line out to Twin Lakes. You know, if you recall, several months ago we bid it. It was over budget, and that was being funded through SRF, which is a low-interest loan, and we had to go to the state to get an amended loan agreement. They have authorized that, and we should be getting that next week. So that being said, we've already taken bids. We can go ahead and move forward in construction within probably the next couple of 3 weeks as soon as we can coordinate something with the contractor.
Thank you, sir. Anybody? Alderman Dupree.
Did you know the company that's going to be doing the paving? You said you were going to try to contact him and to see if they can put Choctaw and Chickasaw on there to be one of the first.
You're talking about the street paving project?
Street paving, yes.
Yes, and they do have that on their schedule to prioritize that for the next, where they move
Give you
next.
an estimated time they're going to start?
Not really, but I would say within the next week.
Oh, okay.
Mayor.
Alderman Geis.
Do you have an update on the traffic study for Interstate Boulevard in that area?
Yes, we do. We have, I think I reported on that last meeting about the actual traffic study. But we are in the process now of putting together a proposal to look at signalization for the intersection of Interstate Boulevard and Nail Road, along with the connector road from Nail to Pepper Chase. Yes, sir.
Mr. Glenn, you have anything for the board, sir?
Yes, sir, real quick. Just wanted to let everyone know that we are down to 69 dogs for the first time. We've been able to get a lot of dogs out through adoption and rescue and so on and so forth, so we are actually getting to a point where we're going to be able to manage our dogs effectively. Also, last time we were here, I talked about 2 of my officers going to training, and I've gone ahead and put their certificates in these frames. Both of them got 100% on their training for animal control. So I wanted to
Both
go
of
ahead and acknowledge them. Tamika Pruitt and Kimberly Shell are now certified animal control officers with a score of 100 from both.
Are they here?
They're not. They can make it.
Thank you for sending them to the training also.
Well,
And
thank the board
congratulations
for
on the
allowing
decrease
it.
in the number of animals.
Yes, we're very, very excited. We're seeing a lot of animals go out through our marketing efforts and just getting out there and talking to people, having events, and having our volunteers come in, which is the last thing I wanted to present. I have in the audience Camille and Catherine Grace with their mother Amanda. These two young ladies are part of our youth chapter for our volunteers. They're our teeny boppers. But I wanted to acknowledge them because during our event last week at the Tractor and Supply, I got word from the youth chapter captain that these were two of the most engaged volunteers that we had, and one of their cats was adopted while they were there. So I wanted to thank them.
They're gonna
Thank you,
stand.
ladies. And so when we get them back to the shelter, they'll be able to choose one of 3 gift cards that I've gotten for them for their appreciation. And of course, we also have Wanda here too. You'll see that during these town hall meetings, we're going to have a lot of volunteers that are engaging, that want to be a part of this. So thank you to Wanda, Colin, and Vicky were here earlier, but I guess it got too late for them, so they left. But I just want to thank all of our volunteers for everything that they're doing because it is making a difference. So thank you.
And definitely a big thank you. Y'all have made a tremendous difference down there. Thank Mr. Glenn for his expert guidance in getting the animal shelter headed in the right direction. We thank you, and we certainly thank our youth for volunteering to care for the animals. And before I forget, at Church Road tomorrow at 6 or 6:30 at Christ the King Catholic Church, they're having a blessing of the animals. St. Francis. All right. Anybody else have anything for Mr. Glenn?
Oh, and meet us at the food truck at the Delta Fair too.
Oh, you're gonna have animals up there, aren't you?
We will have some dogs there at that event as well.
Great. Mr. Glenn and the volunteers are really getting the animals out before the public, and that's made quite a difference. Mr. Chad, do you have anything for the board?
I do not, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Anybody? Mr. Chad? Mr. Jim, you have anything for the board?
Well, I just wanted to note that this past Friday, we had our year-end close on our fiscal year, and it went well, closing that in our system. I do apologize for your board packet. The printout you got really didn't, it does not reflect how we ended the year. For some reason, we had a little glitch in the system, and you'll notice it printed a bunch of zeros. So we did spend a little bit of money last year. It wasn't zero, so we'll get that updated. But we did get the new budget in, which kicked off Monday, and all the department heads are operating in our 24. You all did approve the audit for our next year, so the firm is getting things together. Miss Marie has been putting together things for the auditing firm, and they should be getting on the ground here in the next month or so.
Anyone have any questions or comments for Mr. Jim? Mr. Campbell, do you have anything, sir?
I do not, Mr. Mayor.
All right. We have a motion to go into closed determination.
Mayor, I make a motion to go into closed determination.
Motion by Alderman Dupree. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Alderman Young. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Ladies and gentlemen, if y'all will excuse us a moment, please. Do we have a motion to come out of closed determination? Motion by Alderman Bostic.
Second.
Alderman Young. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Bledsoe. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree. Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Do we have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
I think we have to hear the
Mayor.
reasons.
Mayor,
Alderman Young, do you mind if Alderman?
I don't care.
All right. Alderman Geis.
make a motion to go into executive session to discuss discussions regarding the prospective purchase, sale, and leasing of lands, transaction of business, and discussion regarding the report, development, and course of action regarding security personnel, plans and devices, and personnel issues in the planning department.
All right, we have a motion by Alderman Geis. Do we have a second? Second. Second by Alderman Dupree. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree. Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. If y'all will excuse us, if Thank you, thank you.
Second,
We have a motion to adjourn by
Bostic.
Alderman Bostic. We have a second by Alderman Bledsoe. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young. Alderman Dupree. Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Klein.
Aye. Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Ladies and gentlemen, members of this honorable board, we are adjourned.